So there's a website and a Steam group curator called Woke Content Detector. Now you would think for the people who despise woke stuff in gaming, like the non-binary character that makes no sense in the setting, race-swapping characters' appearance for no reason, or purposely making the game look bad or unappealing, would be a great idea to track these games, informing everyone that the game, if you're planning to buy, might contain questionable stuff in it. However, some cases it feels like a psyop, as if there's a Mossad agent and FBI Hitler hijacked the Steam group to think Armored Core, Dark Souls, and Darkest Dungeon that are considered woke. Doesn't matter if some are slightly woke when the arguments are abysmal. Now, I am fully aware that the website that I'm using is a joke website. However, I'm mentioning this because this joke website states that slightly woke are the equivalent to informational on Steam, and games that are woke are not recommended. For example, in some Metal Slug games are either informational / slightly woke because female player character options. However, they can be not recommended / woke because featuring multiple female frontline combatants. I'm not joking, this shit is real and approved by the owner of the group, so I apologize if I interchangeably say informational or woke from time to time. So if you already think this is abysmal, well, it's about to get worse. But for now, we'll talk about the positives for a bit. One of the positives are, they still dedicated to add more games in the list, even if 90% of them are indie games, and let's be real, most of them you probably never heard of, is something I'll give credit for the dedication. The other positive, though subjective, some of the list I can agree with, like Failguard, kind of a no-brainer. Spider-Man 2, even if see the full review for details, is not really in detail. Like, could we at least see the clip of Spider-Man being anti-gun, even if it's true? Like, show me the paper, show me the studies, show me the metrics that tells you that Spider-Man is gay. Far Cry Primal, there's an alleged gay man couple in a prehistoric setting in which it's very questionable, and more that's on screen because we will be here forever. Unfortunately, that's all the positives. Most of the negatives are me cherry picking games that I and my homies who know why calling them woke is retarded. Starting with Dot Hack GU, Last Record. Because you play Dot Hack Last Record, your favorite game.
Oh yes, please tell me all about Endrance's dick.
Endrance is somehow an atrocious male avatar that behaves like a feminine manner. Who the fuck is that character?
Alright, so Endrance... Oh fuck, where to begin? So we have to go back in time. So Endrance in the first Dot Hack games was this kid called Elk, who was a fucking loser, who no one liked, right? His best friend was the only furry character on the server, who wasn't real.
Oh my
It was
god.
like a fucking program, and she ends up dying. You bring her back from the dead, and then she dies again during a time skip, and he's alone, and he's become like a young adult. He takes on the persona of Endrance, who is like an emo goth kid whose cat fucking died like a decade ago and he never got over.
Oh my
I
god.
don't see a problem.
So he's obsessed with fucking his dead cat, and then you kill his dead cat's like illusion that is corrupting him. So then he becomes obsessed with you because he has nothing else in his fucking life. So it's not that he's gay, it's that he's lonely as fuck, and attaching himself to anything is his coping mechanism.
Okay, you just described Yakuza. You just described Yakuza.
That's the most Yakuza plot out there.
Armored Core 6. The games refuse to refer to protagonist as he. Instead, the marketing prohibitively refers to the protagonist with pronouns calling him they. So why is this retarded? The game makes it clear that you as a protagonist are not human. You're not a he nor a she. You're just a product that people use. It's the act of dehumanizing you as a character. And in fact, the game never refers to you as they. People either call you 621 or Raven. The closest you'll get is Eri being inside your conscious. Essentially, two niggas. But like I said, you're always referred to either 621 or Raven in the whole game. This is one of the issues with this curator. You either lie or make shit up and you'll get any game to be not recommended. The owner himself said this, and I quote, "In regards to this game, referring to the player character using they them pronouns is by itself enough for it to be rated as not recommended. Our criteria considers any use of they them pronouns when referring to someone of what should be known as sex as overly pro-alphabet messaging. I understand some developers think it's increasing immersion. We disagree. We consider it as subversion of sexual dimorphism. It could also be considered pro-DEI as well, since it inherently implies that men and women are the same and thus equally capable in whatever the player character can do in a particular game. Not to mention Rink Freddy being someone else's paramour." That last sentence also brings me another problem with whether it's woke or not. They sometimes don't realize the setting it's irrelevant to the story. Like I said, Far Cry Primal, understandable. Armored Core, it takes place in the future. I think a couple gay niggas is fine, since A, you have to read their bio in which casuals will miss that, and B, they're not the main focus of the story. Let's continue. Pro-climactic action messaging. The game swears corporations extracting resources from other planets as bad and harmful. Wow, it's almost as if that's kind of the fucking point, you faggot. They're exploiting their resources, as your character can either care or not give a crap. You're just here to do a job. I don't know much about the Liberator of Rubicon and the Die in Cast ending, so I'll ignore that. Pro-immigration, don't care. Anti-human messaging. When the player decides to pick the ending where he protects humanity by eradicating the alien space herpes, then the game narrator calls the protagonist a monster. Yeah, you nuke everyone. You're a monster by doing that. It's the equivalent of Doomguy or Massa Chief killing so many demons/aliens. Like, what did you expect it?
There were no winners at the close of the Coral War. When the storm of fire finally faded, only the ashes of civilization remained. Ruined and haunted, the corporations made a joint announcement with the Planetary Closure Administration. Rubicon was to be abandoned, left a dead planet forever. Meanwhile, the monster who burned the stars vanished into the flames, never to be heard from again.
OP tries to give sources, however most of the links are dead, and again, I wouldn't be surprised if most of them are out of context, like this comment says. Might as well mention this, essentially me speedrunning some games. Any optional homosexual romances or optional polyamory are considered at least informational. So yeah, most BioWare games are not safe from it. Fallout, more like gay out. By the way, Fallout 2 reasoning for being woke is because one of the characters is a Enclave parody of the Vice President Dan Quayle called Daniel Bird, and because it's anti-Republican/conservative writing.
And the Vice President says, I am not part of the problem. I am a Republican. And our chosen one's only option is to say, like I said, part of the problem. That's not true, says the Vice President. Republicans understand the importance of bondage between a mother and a child. That's the key to the solution of all of our problems. We need a return to family values. D. Bird here is just a vehicle for Quaylisms. This entire conversation we just had with Bird is comprised of quotes that Dan Quayle actually said, including the bondage between a mother and child thing, including the Mars thing, including the Holocaust thing. According to Snopes, the only Quaylism that Interplay included in this dialogue that Quayle didn't actually say is the one about pollution and the environment. That one was actually penned by a humor columnist trying to pick fun at him. But all the other ones were real.
And of course, optional homosexual romances. We have to state that to every gamer. Pathfinder, more like Pathtinder. Even Saints Row games aren't safe, since the older ones provide you with crap ton of character customization, including having a male body with a female voice, which is why it's slightly woke. Same with games that use body type A or B, only worse because Elden Ring and Tekken 8 are considered woke. And more games like Dragon's Dogma 2, and the first one is informational because nearly all NPCs can become the player's beloved, whatever the fuck that means. Lisa Agai, Fag World, Street Thug 6, and Slanesh 40k Niggertide, and Ass Creed Games. Most, if not all, say contains pro-DEI messaging. One of the opening scenes is a diversity disclaimer that says this game was made by a multicultural team of various religious faith and beliefs, and the owner proceeds to speak. I don't think it's very subtle. It's a clear virtual signal. They even use the word multicultural. The newer versions also include alphabet propaganda. That change in and of itself seems very telling to me. Why would a developer put this in a video game at all? Is there any other purpose it could serve aside from political propaganda? You can find the same language used on corporate DI pages. So something one of my homies brought up, a valid point. This message used to mean something. You need to understand that the first Assassin's Creed was made in 2007. The goal used to be before Odyssey is to make the most historical accurate game as possible. Keyword possible. At the time, it was more or less, hey, we don't have a generic white dude number 69 developing this game. We have multiple diverse people working on this game. We know what story and setting we're telling. All you need to understand, the past was different back then, just like the old YouTube used to be, peak nostalgia. However, before I mention Black Flag, if I get a comment saying, actually, this Assassin's Creed 3 DLC, Tyranny of King Washington, that was made historically inaccurate. Ah yes, that one DLC, which is a massive what if, an alternate history about George Washington having an apple of Eden and becoming a tyrannid king. Listen, I only saw the cutscenes in this video in particular. I'll admit that. However, this is the same DLC in which the main character gets superpowers based on specific animals, specifically the wolf that makes you invisible, the eagle makes you fly, and the bear that does AoE damage. You're literally Fixin from DC. So the people that make this argument, I have to ask, did y'all even finish the DLC?
Commander. Take it. Take it from me. I do not want it.
But back to Black Flag. Don't know about the out-of-place diversity from the golden age of piracy, but I want to focus on the NPC Mary Reed engages in cross-dressing. This character existed in real life. This isn't the George Floyd situation in Shadows. Mary Reed, aka James Kidd, is a real-life person that existed in history. And despite two people debunking this thread, it's still there, open to everyone joining this group. Batman Arkham Knight is slightly woke because a voicemail from Kate Kane reveals she is getting married to her female fiancé. A member of Militia mentions his other half is a male civil rights lawyer. Minus the fact that you can completely miss the voice line. And also, Kate Kane is a lesbian, so do we consider characters that are canonically gay as woke? Now, Borderlands 2 is kinda interesting case. So there is a article that Gearbox made a while back in 2013. A lead writer, Anthony Birch, talking about inclusivity in Borderlands 2. After mentioning Anita Sarkeesian, he brings up characters like Ellie, how she's going against the stereotypes that all female video game characters must confront to mass market definitions of beauty. How Hexton, the commando, is apparently bisexual and Sir Hammerlock is gay, that one was obvious, and how they wanted their cast to be more diverse and inclusive. Obviously, I skimmed through the article, so if you care, read it yourself. So do I think this game is woke? I don't know. The game is still enjoyable, the wokeness is not in your face, and the characters are still likable. Unlike the third game, where everyone is unlikable, obnoxious, annoying fucks. And I hope they die in the next game. Like I said, it depends on person by person. Other than that, I can't say the rest of the franchise. And yes, bully is woke because you can kiss a boy in the game and get the joke achievement. Darkest Dungeon contains overly pro-DI messaging, features multiple female heroes who are frontline combatants. Goodness gracious, women can fight in this universe? That's illegal! Including the Arbalist, a woman of color wearing full plate armor who wields a giant crossbow. Okay, so in the world of Darkest Dungeon, where one of your companions can turn into a monster, occultist, summoning tentacles in the air, flagellant, having blood powers, while you are fighting against eldritch HP Lovecraftian monstrosities by a woman with a giant crossbow, nah, that's too much for you. Considering that there's a Hellion doesn't bother you. But wait, there's more! 40+% of playable roster characters are female. Listen, 1 or 2 women, that's fine. 7, that's a bit too much. Even if the male roster are dominant. 2 of them are black. 1 is a gypsy. All of this in a Lovecraftian fucking insane dungeon in 50s and 60s England. The game isn't explicit to what time it takes place. Some speculate 80s or 1920s. I'll be frank, it doesn't really matter since you're not only are recruiting people from fast worlds, again, the occultists exist, but also changing their appearance in game vanilla. The owner also said this, update, this game has been changed to not recommended after the diversity of the roster in this one and its predecessor have been brought to my attention. Both games features multiple heroes that are female, frontline combatants, as well as ethnic diversity uncharacteristic for the setting. As far as I'm aware, the game setting does not include magic or some other in-universe explanation for why females are in these roles. Again, this is the same game where the Crusader can damage people with paper, a freaking AoE attack calling you trash. In most Deus Ex games, pro-transhumanism messaging, the player character is augmented with nanotechnology, which is a major part of gameplay. Wow, it's almost as if the protagonist is a fucking cyborg. Now, I was confused on why being part machine can be woke, until yet again we discussed this with my homies. You'll be surprised how often this happens. So for those who don't know, transhumanism is a concept that humans can evolve beyond limitations of a mortal flesh. They will become something much greater, and the limitations like mentality, sexuality, bones, muscles, etc. will be a thing from the past. Essentially, there will be no such thing as a man nor a woman. There will only be entities. We can just put our brains into a male body, human body, anything like that. However, that shifting between male and female sounds a lot like transgender, and that's why people considered woke, not realizing there's a wider context here. It's not woke because it's a man becoming a woman. It's literally the entity putting a different skin suit. Like the idea of transhumanism is when we reach the point it doesn't matter about man or woman, because man and woman will no longer exist. We will be beings who are uploading ourselves into a newer flesh suit. It'll be literally as simple as changing clothes. That's the idea and concept why people think it's woke. I would also like to add that people will see/think trans and transhumanism as the same thing. However, it isn't the same thing. Transgender, transitioning, transhumanism, transcending. Transitioning is altering your physical appearance just so you can comfortably believe yourself to be the opposite gender. Transcending is becoming more than human. And don't get me started with trans fat and cis fat. Fuck that, we'll be here forever. Hopefully the transhumanism wasn't confusing to you. If it was, then I failed, and I apologize. Getting back to Deus Ex, the game makes it clear that with the exception of the main character, because he's special, you're on medication for the rest of your life, just so you can use your limbs. I'll be frank, that's a skill issue, and it doesn't endorse people chopping their limbs off. If anything, in Mandildo Divided, the augmented people, or AUGs, are considered second-class citizens due to the ending of human revolution. And if you want to know what happened without spoilers, cyberpsychosis. That's all you need to know. Okay, so each Dark Souls game has their own reason for being slightly woke. In DS3, the reversal ring allows the player character to perform the animations associated with the opposite biological sex. In DS2, there's a gender swap coffin that allows the player character to change back and forth between male and female. Does it affect gameplay? No. Is it something you can easily miss? Yes, and by the way, this is still a fantasy, and the world of Dark Souls is already bizarre, just like most Fromsoftware games. Now, I did purposely save DS1 for last. The boss character, Gwendolyn, was born a male, but raised as a female and given clothes and a magic ring to help him act like a female. This is another issue I have, not just the Steam group, but also Synthetic Man, or I like to call him Contrarian Man. To them, it doesn't matter if there's good context to why this character is like that. To them, it's still woke to their eyes. To explain why Gwendolyn is like this, it's because he was born under the influence of the moon magic, which also affected his appearance due to the snake coils around his lower half. In a bunch of mythologies, the moon is associated with femininity, while the sun is associated with masculinity. So you can understand why Gwen the father treats one of his sons as a woman. It's basically, you'll never be a real woman, but replace woman with a man, and that's the relationship. One of my homies, Doom King Kushranada, the guy who also explained the dot hack, wants to add this, and I quote, "I would only add that his treatment was seen as an insult as well when compared to his sister, a woman who left the kingdom at some point and who he pretended to be the player. His persona as Guinevere is a trick meant to use and manipulate you to your death, and he does this to honor his father who rejected him. The same father who rejected the elder son, the nameless king, as Gwen struck his name and actions from history. The entire family dynamic is barbarous and archaic, literally anti-woke. In other words, you can't say X-Media is woke with little to fuck all context because there's a femboy in it. By your own logic, Synthetic Man is woke because he likes to get pegged by a futa tranny. Or Andy Pence Gaming is woke because he constantly mentions how he has a trad wife, which is a sign of insecurity and it makes him look zesty as fuck. Lastly, I was going to mention Space Marine 2 and its thread. However, I decided to withhold it because you get the point. Although, I did recently discover that they don't recommend Metal Gear Rising Revengeance because it features a story that criticizes neoconservatism, jingoism, and the war on terror, American consumerism, and American politics, among other things. Okay, now you get the point. This whole Steam group had potential to warn gamers of games that have woke extremists and nonsense in it. However, the group lost thought on reality, and just like the wokies, they themselves became extremists. Anyways, if you're new to this channel and watching this video, thank you for your time. I'll be frank, I wasn't sure if this video was necessary since people already covered it long time ago. Still, thank you for watching this and have a nice day night.